"Indeed," said I, "I do not understand you." But just then, arriving at the milliner's, our conversation ended, for Miss Watkins called me to look at caps and ribbons. Sir Clement, however, has the art of being always at home. He was very soon engaged, as busily as ourselves, in looking at lace ruffles; yet he took an opportunity of saying to me, in a low voice, "How charmed I am to see you looking so well! I was told you were ill, but I never saw you in better health, never more infinitely lovely." I turned away to examine the ribbons, and soon after Mrs. Selwyn made her appearance. I found that she was acquainted with Sir Clement, and her manner of speaking to him convinced me that he was a favourite with her. When their mutual compliments were over, she turned to me and said, "Pray, Miss Anville, how long can you live without nourishment?" "Indeed, Ma'am," said I, laughing, "I have never tried." "Because so long, and no longer," answered she, "you may remain at Bristol." "Why, what is the matter, Ma'am?" "The matter? Why, all the ladies are at open war with you; the whole pump room is in confusion; and you, innocent as you pretend to look, are the cause. However, if you take my advice, you'll be very careful how you eat and drink during your stay." I begged her to explain herself; and she then told me that a copy of verses had been dropped in the pump room, and read there aloud. "The beauties of the Wells," said she, "are all mentioned, but you are the Venus to whom the prize is given." "Is it then possible," cried Sir Clement, "that you have not seen these verses?" "I hardly know," answered I, "whether anybody has." "I assure you," said Mrs. Selwyn, "if you give me the invention of them, you do me an honour I by no means deserve." "I wrote down in my tablets," said Sir Clement, "the stanzas which concern Miss Anville this morning at the pump room, and I will do myself the honour of copying them for her this evening." "But why the part that concerns Miss Anville?" said Mrs. Selwyn. "Did you ever see her before this morning?" "Oh, yes," answered he, "I have had that happiness frequently at Captain Mirvan's, too frequently," added he, in a low voice, as Mrs. Selwyn turned to the milliner; and as soon as she was occupied in examining some trimmings, he came to me, and, almost whether I would or not, entered into conversation with me. "I have 1,000 things," cried he, "to say to you. Pray, where are you?" "With Mrs. Selwyn, Sir." "Indeed! Then for once chance is my friend. And how long have you been here?" "About 3 weeks." "Good Heaven! what an anxious search have I had to discover your abode, since you so suddenly left town! The termagant, Madame Duval, refused me all intelligence. Oh, Miss Anville, did you know what I have endured? The sleepless, restless state of suspense I have been tortured with, you could not, all cruel as you are, you could not have received me with such frigid indifference." "Received you, Sir?" "Why, is not my visit to you? Do you think I should have made this journey but for the happiness of again seeing you?" "Indeed, it is possible I might, since so many others do." "Cruel, cruel girl! You know that I adore you, you know that you are the mistress of my soul, and arbitress of my fate." Mrs. Selwyn then advancing to us, he assumed a more disengaged air, and asked if he should not have the pleasure of seeing her in the evening at the assembly. "Oh, yes," cried she, "we shall certainly be there; so you may bring the verses with you, if Miss Anville can wait for them so long." "I hope then," returned he, "that you will do me the honour to dance with me." I thanked him, but said I should not be at the assembly. "Not be at the assembly?" cried Mrs. Selwyn. "Why, have you too letters to write?" She looked at me with significant archness, that made me colour, and I hastily answered, "No, indeed, Ma'am." "You have not?" cried she, yet more dryly. "Then pray, my dear, do you stay at home to help, or to hinder others?" "To do neither, Ma'am," answered I, in much confusion; "so, if you please, I will not stay at home." "You allow me, then," said Sir Clement, "to hope for the honour of your hand?" I only bowed, for the dread of Mrs. Selwyn's raillery made me not dare refuse him. Soon after this we walked home. Sir Clement accompanied us, and the conversation that passed between Mrs. Selwyn and him was supported in so lively a manner, that I should have been much entertained, had my mind been more at ease. But, alas! I could think of nothing but the capricious, the unmeaning appearance which the alteration in my conduct must make in the eyes of the Lord Orville; and much as I wished to avoid him, greatly as I desire to save myself from having my weakness known to him, yet I cannot endure to incur his ill opinion, and, unacquainted as he is with the reasons by which I am actuated, how can he fail condemning a change to him so unaccountable? As we entered the garden, he was the first object we saw. He advanced to meet us, and I could not help observing that at sight of each other both he and Sir Clement changed colour. We went into the parlour, where we found the same party we had left. Mrs. Selwyn presented Sir Clement to Mrs. Beaumont. Lady Louisa and Lord Merton he seemed well acquainted with already. The conversation was upon the general subjects, of the weather, the company at the Wells, and the news of the day; but Sir Clement, drawing his chair next to mine, took every opportunity of addressing himself to me in particular. I could not but remark the striking difference of his attention and that of Lord Orville. The latter has such gentleness of manners, such delicacy of conduct, and an air so respectful, that when he flatters most he never distresses, and when he most confers honour appears to receive it. The former obtrudes his attention and forces mine; it is so pointed that it always confuses me, and so public that it attracts general notice. Indeed, I have sometimes thought that he would rather wish than dislike to have his partiality for me known, as he takes great care to prevent my being spoken to by any but himself. When at length he went away, Lord Orville took his seat, and said, with half a smile, "Shall I call Sir Clement, or will you call me a usurper for taking this place? You make no answer. Must I then suppose that Sir Clement—" "It is little worth your Lordship's while," said I, "to suppose anything upon so insignificant an occasion." "Pardon me," cried he, "to me nothing is insignificant in which you are concerned." To this I made no answer, neither did he say anything more, till the ladies retired to dress; and then, when I would have followed them, he stopped me, saying, "One moment, I entreat you." I turned back, and he went on, "I greatly fear that I have been so unfortunate as to offend you; yet so repugnant to my very soul is the idea, that I know not how to suppose it possible I can unwittingly have done the thing in the world that, designedly, I would wish to avoid." "No, indeed, my Lord, you have not," said I. "You sigh," cried he, taking my hand. "Would to Heaven I were the sharer of your uneasiness, whatsoever it springs! With what earnestness would I not struggle to alleviate it! Tell me, my dear Miss Anville, my new adopted sister, my sweet and most amiable friend, tell me, I beseech you, if I can afford you any assistance." "None, none, my Lord," cried I, withdrawing my hand, and moving towards the door. "Is it that impossible I can serve you? Perhaps you wish to see Mr. Macartney again?" "No, my Lord," and I held the door open. "I am not, I own, sorry for that. Yet, oh, Miss Anville, there is a question, there is a conjecture, I know not how to mention, because I dread the result. But I see you are in haste. Perhaps in the evening I may have the honour of a longer conversation. Yet one thing, will you have the goodness to allow me to ask, did you, this morning, when you went to the Wells, did you know whom you should meet there?" "Who, my Lord?" "I beg your pardon 1,000 times for a curiosity so unlicensed, but I will say no more at present." He bowed, expecting me to go in, and then, with quick steps but a heavy heart, I came to my own room. His question, I am sure, meant Sir Clement Willoughby, and had I not imposed upon myself the severe task of avoiding, flying Lord Orville with all my power, I would instantly have satisfied him of my ignorance of Sir Clement's journey; and yet more did I long to say something of the assembly, since I found he depended upon my spending the evening at home. I did not go down stairs again till